Hi there, my name is Laura Brady. This is the first in a series of videos about creating accessible content, specifically using Word to InDesign to EPUB workflows. I'm going to start today with a video about Word to InDesign. So let me share my screen. Oh, there it is. And we'll get underway. Okay, so this video is about learning word styles to prepare content to import into InDesign successfully, making the typesetting and the ebook conversion process easier. So that's a lot of words and may sound like it's going to get technical, but I would encourage editorial staff to consume this video as well for a couple of reasons. The editorial staff are the ones prepping manuscripts to go to production in general. And they're the ones sort of cleaning up what the authors have done and sort of taking out stuff that's not necessary and maybe putting in some tagging around headers and small caps and italics and that sort of thing. So this video is definitely for editorial staff, in addition to production staff like designers, typesetters, ebook conversion people, pre-flight people, etc. This is for the entire editorial to production to output workflow. And it's worth having everyone in that whole pipeline have a look at this video. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to zoom down to some content. I've prepared some really simple content that is going to become more and more familiar to you as you consume these series of videos. That's actually fairly basic. So it's got a chapter number, a chapter title, a subhead, some subheads. It's got a language shift here, some italics here, some emphasis italics up here. It's got a footnote as well, somewhere down here. There's the footnote, and I'm not sure where the reference in text is at this very moment, but we will get to that. This version of Word that I'm operating is Word 16.56. So your version may be slightly different and you may be on a PC. This video has been recorded on a Macintosh computer, but everything is mostly the same from version of Word to version of Word. It may look slightly different, and so that when you get into your own Word program to mimic what we're doing in this video, you may have to orient yourself and figure out where the buttons are that I'm going to show you. Okay, first thing, when you're working in Word, always turn on this in the paragraphs and invisible characters. So that's, I don't know if you saw that, when I turned that on, the paragraph returns came up at the end of the breaks and any double spaces would be shown, etc. Where we're going to focus our work today is in this thing here called the Styles Pane. When I click on that, it opens up this sidebar window with all of the styles in the document. So let's go through that just a little bit to orient ourselves. This shows both character and paragraph styles, and will show a number of things. So let's have a quick look. If I turn on this button down here called Show Direct Formatting Guides, what's going to highlight is everything that is styled outside of style sheets. So this subhead is bold, and sometimes it would have a line space above. Often in manuscripts, you're going to get authors or editors who have done the work to like that. They put line spaces around things to space things out. Let's try to move away from empty white space content like that. So no tabs, no double spaces to achieve line spacing effects. It types out a lot of poetry and convert a lot of poetry from poets who use the space bar to get the shape of their poetry. And while I understand why they're doing it, it's not something that's going to hold throughout the whole process. Those spaces are going to look different once the Word file comes into InDesign, and they're going to disappear entirely when we convert to HTML, which is essentially what an ebook is. So avoid empty white space. I'll go into that in more depth in the InDesign portions of this video series, but for now, keep those white space items out. It's very likely you'll have to clean up whatever the author submitted because authors aren't well known to be good at styles. So that's that. So when you open up the Styles pane, this is a button that I recommend that you turn on right away, Show Direct Formatting Guides. This is going to help you navigate through what needs to be cleaned up and what needs to be left alone. And then from here, let's go through and just format this a little bit. So the chapter number, let's say, is heading 1. The chapter title, for argument's sake, this is probably not the right choice, but we're going to do it anyway for here, and I'll explain later when we get deeper into EPUB why this is maybe not the right choice, but that does need a header and it does need some formatting applied. The subhead, we'll call it heading 3. We could actually, instead of heading 2, we could call this the title and then call this heading 2. And this subhead, very cleverly named, we'll call that heading 3. This is not perfect, and we can edit these style sheets a little bit. So when I would edit the title, I want more space after it, just for visuals. So I can go in and modify the style and say, let's go to the paragraph and let's give this some space after of 20 points. It's just a random number. And that will update it and we'll add the space after. When you want to edit these style sheets, this is what's critical. This is why I showed you that. Don't go up here and edit the paragraph and add space after here. Edit it through the style sheet. So I don't know if you saw what I did there. There's a little pull down menu that says select all, modify style, delete or update to match selection. So in this case, we want to modify style and then edit it as we see fit. It is also possible, let's edit the subhead, and let's say we want like half of line space after that subhead. We can go up here to the paragraph style sheet and say after 6 points, ta-da. And then this shows up that there's some extra styling going on up here. If you look in this line up here, it says heading 2 plus. So the plus means that there's some direct formatting happening and it's 6 points after. If I go into this style sheet and say update to match selection, then that disappears. I don't know if you saw that. And anything that's styled as heading 2 throughout this entire document will now have 6 points of space after. The subhead, which we have styled as heading 3, I think we want a little bit of space before and a little bit of space after, so we can do that again right up here. So a little bit more space before and, oh, that's too much. Well, maybe it's not actually. And then a little teeny bit of space after. That looks about like what we want. And then update to match selection so that all heading 3s thereafter will be formatted properly. So I jumped into some paragraph styles there. This paragraph is styled as normal, with the notable exception of the emphasis, the italics that are going on in that paragraph. There are a lot of style sheets built into Word. And the way to list them out is through this window down here. We can choose to show only the styles that are recommended, only the styles that are in use. So I think that would be a smaller list in the current document. I'm not sure what the difference between styles in use and in current document is. This just struck me right now. I'm sorry about that, but they're very similar. And then all styles. Word has a bazillion styles built into their templates. I want to just step back for a minute and say that once you're done going through this video and have your head wrapped around word styles, it's a good idea for your publishing house to create a template, to create a Word template with just the styles that you want to use. And then when an author submits a manuscript for production, you bring that into your template, clear out any styles that you're inheriting in their file, and migrate them to the styles that you're using and the styles that you know are going to work for your entire workflow. You'll see in the next video that I'm setting up style sheets here so that when I read them into InDesign, it will actually come in already formatted if I have good style sheets set up in InDesign as well. So creating a good template for your own in-house use is a terrific idea. Okay, let's format these italic characters. Yeah, well, first, I think we should do some basic text formatting. So this paragraph here is set up as normal. I'm going to make it a little bit more designy. We'll just change that basic Calibri font and make it Times New Roman. It's 12 point. I think that's fine. The only thing that we want here is probably a tab or a first line indent on that paragraph. So I go up to paragraph and then say indentation, special first line. You know, just leave that to whatever the default is, unless you're really fussed about how it looks in Word. I'm going to say OK there. And then I'm going to say update to match selection. So now the problem is that all these other style sheets are based on that. So we'll have to go into heading 1 and take that off. I'm going to leave that for now and I'll fix it later. The one thing I want to do here on the very first paragraph after the subhead is to make that a paragraph with no indent whatsoever, because that's how we'll want this paragraph to have a different style sheet than this paragraph, because we want that first paragraph to have no indent. In general, that's good typesetting best practice. So I'm going to go back up again to format and down to paragraph and adjust that first line indent to 0. And then, so here's the trick. So now this has got some direct formatting that we don't want. What I want to do here is to create a new style. So I'm going to click that new style button and I'm going to call it no indent. It's still based on normal, so it will inherit the Times New Roman from the normal style sheet, but it will have no indent, and that's exactly what I want. Okay, it already has a style called that. Of course, there's always a hitch. So let me go down and find no indent. There we go. I had already created it. So there we go. It's got slightly different formatting than the next paragraph, but I'm going to let that ride. It's because it's set in Minion. We're not typesetting in Word, we're just setting it up for InDesign. So that doesn't matter a whole ton. And then again, I'm going to make this paragraph no indent right after the subhead. I think that there are no more in this chapter, so we'll just leave that. Okay, let's get back to these italics. The one thing that is really useful in Word is to use character styles to define things that we want to be a little bit different. They may appear the same, like these italics are exactly the same. It's just Minion italic. But we're going to use these in different way. This O is something that you want to be vocally emphasized in some contexts. It's, oh, why can't you remain like this forever? That's why it's italicized, because the reader is meant to see that as vocal emphasis. So we're going to style that a little bit differently than other italics in the document that are just for visuals or are for something different, like the SS Minnow is the name of a boat, and that needs to be italicized for different reasons. We want 2 different italic styles here. I probably already have italic styles in this video or in this template, but regardless, I'm going to start here and say new style. And then here's the key. I'm going to make it a character style instead of a paragraph style. So important to choose that correctly. And I'll call, in this case, I'm going to call it emphasis. So I'm just going to use the short word M for that and do that and apply it. And then the SS Minnow is going to be under still also a character style, and we're going to call it italic. I'm going to get a message saying this already exists. Oh, I didn't. Oh, but now you see I do have some. I have more than one in this document. I can clean that up. That's not a huge deal, but I knew that was going to happen. And then another use for a character style sheet. So what I just did for the emphasis and the italic can also be done for strong and bold. Those are 2 different kinds of uses of a boldface. And then other character styles can be used for something like this sentence here, which is French. I'm going to create a new style and call it French. And it's going to be not a paragraph style, a character style. And it's not going to have any formatting differences from what is already there. It's still going to be just Roman, but it will be styled as French because I want the sort of scaffolding of that language shift built into this content right from the editorial stage. And so let me just step back and explain that a little bit. There, I have worked on a lot of manuscripts that have language shifts in them that go from, say, English to French or English to Cree or English to Cantonese or English to some subgroup of the Cantonese language group. And as the typesetter or the ebook converter, I'm not the best person to say what language that's meant to be in. That's actually an editorial task. And the editors are the ones that are best positioned to mark those language shifts and to mark them correctly. So the scaffolding for that process is now laid out for this sentence, j'aime le chocolat. I've made it French, and that's exactly right. So when this goes through the typesetting process, nothing's going to change. It's still going to be Roman like the text around it. But when we get to the ebook conversion phase, that character style is going to be there, and the ebook conversion person can apply a language code to the span tag around that sentence so that when a print disabled reader is reading this content, the screen reader switches from an English accent with the sentence before to a French accent here, and then back to an English accent. That's the whole reason for doing this. It is a very good idea to lay out any language shifts using character styles in the Word document. And this is absolutely a task for editorial. I had to make some decisions about which dialect of Cantonese and Mandarin some language shifts were in recently, and they were pure guesses. The editor wasn't available, and that's not a situation you want to be in. You want to make sure that the reading experience is as sorry, I'm missing the word, is as dedicated to the original as possible, as true to the original as possible. So the use of styles for that is critical. And then the other thing I want to say about word styles is this. How it looks in Word doesn't matter one whit to me, because I'm going to bring it into InDesign and typeset it properly and lay out the pages and make it look exactly like I want to look in print. But in Word, the key is to be utterly consistent. So make sure that every paragraph that you don't want to have an indent on is styled with that no indent style sheet all the way through the entire manuscript. Every snippet of French is styled with that French character style. All the italics are styled are styled with intent, so that citations, so book titles that are citations are styled with one version of italic. That things like the SS Minnow, the ship name, are similar, are styled with another italic style sheet, and that things that you want vocally emphasized in a screen reader context are styled with a third style sheet. So it can get a little bit diverse and there can be quite a lot going on. But once you get the hang of this, it will become very easy and it will become second nature. And using these styles will become a lot easier. So we want to use the styles for structure. So here we go. We want to have headers. Important to note that when a print disabled reader, especially someone who can't see the content, is navigating through a book, even a piece of fiction, they do it by navigating from header to header to header. And so making sure that the headers are well styled, that they're not styled using direct formatting as our subheads were originally, and that they're styled using style sheets means that those headers will get pulled into a navigation document and that the structure of the content is well formed and easy for any kind of reader coming at the content to understand. So styles are used for structure, for language shifts, for italic and bold, and emphasis and strong, in addition to citations. So that's 5 different uses of those character style sheets. And those are the main things that they're used for in Word. We can get fancy and do cell styles and table styles in Word, but my experience is that it doesn't come through to InDesign. So it's best to save that energy for styling that kind of thing in InDesign instead of in Word. And the same is true for images. I have received a lot of manuscript in my day that had images embedded in the Word file. They they do come through into InDesign. They're not necessarily the right resolution, so that can be problematic. Um, and they won't have any styling on them. Like if you want the image centered, that's going to get lost when you read it into InDesign. So the basic message here is not to get too fancy in Word, but to pay close attention to paragraph styles and character styles with notable attention to language shifts and italic and bold usage.